Real Dads Lead. And welcome to another episode of Real Dads Lead. I'm here again, your host, Dwayne Smith, and next to me is the All-American Dad, Matt Hamilton. Good to see you today, Matt.
You too.
Good to be seen.
Yeah, I see your hat too. You got an All-American hat up there.
I do have an All-American hat.
1776.
Yeah. So we was the 4th of July is come and gone, and went to Menards, and they had some 4th of July gear, and this hat was one of them for
cheap.
under $5.
Nice.
It's like $4.60 I'm like, yeah. And I got shirts for all the boys. They were all the same t-shirts, so all the same price. It was nice. It was fun. 4th of July. Did you enjoy your 4th?
Yeah, we did.
Did you do some parades and fireworks? What all?
We did. We went to a parade. Yeah, I'm not a big parade guy. No, not at all, actually. But my youngest daughter, the last time we were at a parade, she was too young to remember it, and so she was begging to go. So this is purely a dad duty kind of a parade thing. So, but it was good. It was fun.
We went to the local fireworks, and it was actually sponsored by the river. So it was,
really?
Sponsored by the Christian radio station
in Westerville. Was it in Westerville? Really?
And so they played river songs
Nice.
throughout the day, and they did have a band there called the British Invasion, and they just sang a bunch of like the Beatles and the Monkees and some other
interesting
songs.
Kind of an ironic name.
That's I know. Funny. That's what I thought for the 4th. He said, "Well, we're celebrating your independence." It's called the British Invasion.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny to me, but yeah. And then when they shot the fireworks, they would play. It had music to go behind, and it was basically the whole John Philip Sousa and all the patriotic music, but sprinkled in with some of the Christian music that they play on the radio station.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was kind of fun.
Money speaks, I guess, huh? They were able to pay their way in there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So, at any rate, we are going through I started the last podcast we put out, the 34. I called it the father to son words of advice. Father to son words of advice. We got through 23 of them.
We did.
So I wanted to hit the last 10 because I have on there, like on the YouTube thing, I also, in both of them, I have like part 1. So this will be part 2.
Yeah. We're going to skip a couple of them just for sake of time.
We'll have to read them.
Okay.
We don't have to talk about
All right. Well, the first one we don't really understand.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So we are on number 24.
Yeah.
And it says,
here we go. If you have any idea what this means, you can enlighten us. Okay. Ask your mom to play. She won't let you win.
Enough said.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, does that just mean that your mom is more fun maybe than you think? Is that what he's trying to communicate? I don't know either.
We'll have to ask MacArthur. Because
bro. All right.
Well, how would you put it then? As far as there's got to be somebody in your, this is obviously whoever wrote this was, this is for my son. That seems to be more of an inside.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like an inside joke or knowledge kind of thing. Yeah.
Inside knowledge. Yeah.
So
who, like in your family, if like, is there somebody you should ask a certain person to play?
Well, I wonder too if this is written to a boy who's becoming a man. Oftentimes, teenage boys end up conflicting with their moms. You know what I'm saying? For various reasons. Moms are often trying to hold on. Boys are trying to break free. Whatever. Right. And so maybe he is communicating just that. Like kind of I dare you to go and have fun with your mom because you'll find that she is fun. She does love you. She is competitive. You'll have a good time. Maybe that's what it is. We'll see.
That might be good.
Talking it through, maybe.
But, and even expanding on that, then honoring your mother. So it's something that a father should communicate to their son.
Yeah, that's not on the list explicitly, but that definitely should be.
No, I'm putting it there with that.
Yeah. And of course,
ask your mom to play, meaning honor.
Yeah, and of course, a girl should look for in a guy someone who is honoring his mom and his sisters, who treats them well.
Yeah.
So that's a good word of advice, just to piggyback off of this, or maybe go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. All right, so
Number 25, manners maketh the man.
Emphasis on
yeah, it says maketh.
Yeah,
that's an old.
I'm not sure why. Term. Maybe they're saying this is old wisdom. Let's keep it. I don't know. Manners make the man. What do you think about that?
That's good. Very good. Very, very good.
In what way? What kind of manners would you say are implied here?
Well, just politeness is number one. And I think we talked about, the yes, ma'am, yes, sir aspect that I was trying to instill in my kids. Please and thank you are all.
And I hear them say those things.
Yeah. And that is one of the things that, it stands out. I was listening to another podcast, and it was the Unashamed podcast with the Duck Dynasty guys. And they were talking about fast food and their frustration with it, because the last few times they've gone to a fast food restaurant, they've not fast, go through the drive-thru, and they've waited and waited and waited. Yeah. And one of them was talking about when he went to get his food, he was handed this greasy bag and said, "Here." And he said, "Thank you." And she just looked at him like
he was like an awkward pause. He looked at her for a minute and said, "Thank you." Yeah. That's hilarious.
But it wasn't him saying thank you to her. It was,
he
was really saying, "Oh, won't you say thank you for shopping here?" Or thank you. And then they were praising Chick-fil-A. It's
my pleasure.
Pretty much the only thing. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah. And they really emphasized the manners and the hospitality and the politeness.
That'd be a really interesting study, just a little case study, to ask Chick-fil-A customers what it is that attracts them to Chick-fil-A. It'd be interesting to see how much the politeness, the manner factor plays in that. Because you're right, it's so different.
It is.
There's something appealing. People like to be treated well.
Yeah.
And they're drawn to people who treat them well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and as far as, again, girls go, you're telling your boy to have manners. The way that he treats her is gonna draw her in or push her away.
Right.
I think it's hard sometimes, though. I've tried to instill manners, in my own family, towards my wife, but especially when you have kids, and you're always on the go and you're rushing out the house, the practicality of opening the door for your wife all the time is one thing. If we're going into a building or going to the house, I always do it.
Right.
But opening the door for the car, it's she's oftentimes just we don't have time. Just get in, or whatever it is, somebody's putting the baby and you're doing this, or I've got one vehicle that I'm using right now where it's actually physically impossible to open up that door unless I open up mine first.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess the objective is just to strive to be polite and be kind and to put others first as often as you can.
Yeah. And it makes a difference. It does make an impact.
Yeah.
And like you said, it draws you in. So if manners maketh the man, then the better manners you have, the more manly you're going to be.
Right.
Number 26.
Give credit, take the blame.
Give credit, take the blame.
I think this is really good.
Okay. Why?
Well, I think oftentimes our pride prevents us from giving credit where credit is due. Is we're either jealous, envious of the other person's successes or the attention that they're getting, or whatever. But our pride often prevents us from doing that. It shows humility, when we're able to celebrate with other people and to lift other people up, and it keeps us humble. Nobody likes a prideful man. It makes us a team player. But then take the blame. we're often quick to put the blame on other people, again, for the same reason. It's pride, but taking the blame, even if you're a part of a team, especially if you're a leader, taking the blame, not being quick to blame it on everybody else.
Right.
That shows I think a lot of maturity, and especially if you're on a team, again, however your team has responded, it in part does fall on you, whether it's your family or it's a team at work or whatever it might be. So you're going to take the blame and you're going to course correct.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And I do think that, even if you're not part of a team, if you make a mistake, you own up to that mistake.
Repent, make it right.
And that is taking the blame. And not to be quick to give yourself credit or patting yourself on the back when you do something.
Or way out. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You do something, you're like, hey, I did this and I did this. But so basically it's the kind of piggybacking on the manners thing. You're not inflating yourself too much. And when you do make a mistake, you are accepting the responsibility.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said too of like, can you achieve some kind of success quietly? Like without anybody else knowing. Can you be content with that? Or are you the kind of person that needs other people to see and give you some kind of credit? And maybe it boils down to, are you willing to do the right thing or to achieve something even though other people won't see it?
Yeah.
Okay. 27. Stand up to bullies. Protect the bullied.
Yeah. Well, that is
should be a no-brainer.
A very courageous thing, because sometimes it's hard to stand up to bullies. And so, you're giving your son, with this piece of advice, you're giving your son a charge.
And a license too for some boys that want to do it, but there's a lot of cultural pressure not to do it.
Yeah.
Like to be more, for lack of a better word, effeminate, like it's not cool to be tough and to, whatever. I think that I'm thinking of some boys that I know specifically who they would want to do those things, but they'd hesitate because our culture often looks down on, I don't know how to say it. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they totally. When we stand up and I don't know.
Well, just go with, we just saw the movie
Sound of Freedom.
And listening to some of the I guess some of the critics of the movie, especially those who don't have a particularly conservative view of things, are putting it down a lot.
Interesting. What are they saying?
Well, they're saying mean things.
Things you cannot repeat on the Real Dad Sleep podcast.
I don't want to get too political on it, but it's just, they really put it down. Where you would think that doesn't matter what your political persuasion is.
This is a moral, non-political issue.
Saving kids from quote unquote bullies, basically what they're doing. Why did I get off that tangent? I can't remember.
I'm not sure. So I would say, it's all related. I think that there's so much flooding our minds right now about standing up to bullies. There's all kinds of bullies in the world, etc. But I think what I was thinking of too, and this is kind of a scattered point that we're talking about, but either way, I'm thinking about how there have been times over the last several years where women have been being abused, for example, and people just pull out their phones.
Right.
And they record, but they do nothing to help the woman. Right. And they're afraid of the cultural pushback that's going to happen, or they're afraid that they're going to somehow do something wrong and they're going to get in trouble. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was kind of getting at with license. Like if you see a woman being raped on a train, and this happened 2 years ago, was it? By a man. It was like 30 to 45 minutes he was molesting this woman. And the other passengers just sat there and recorded it. Like, now that's not what men do. It may not be safe for you to attack this guy on your own. If that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. But it may be more wise to try to get other men in the vicinity to help you pull him off. But a courageous man doesn't let that bully keep bullying this woman, keep harming this woman. You guys are going to take him down. I'm giving you the license. I'm charging you, to use your word, to do something about that. And there's other issues too, like not to get too political again, but the whole racism thing, that's happening in America. I would definitely fall on the more conservative side of that, as would you. But I definitely wouldn't say that racism doesn't exist. Of course, it's always going to exist. And if wherever we're at in the world, if we see it happening, we should stand up to that bully. We should say something. If I'm in Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, and I see somebody being racist to, whether it's an African-American or it's the Indian guy behind the counter. Some people might say that's racist, but let me just tell you, Indians run the best Dunkin' Donuts. So faithful and consistent with their coffee. So anyway, it would be my responsibility to stand up and say something to that person and to protect or defend the one who's being bullied. So I think this is a solid point that we should teach our sons, and that we should begin to kind of rise above the cultural pressures and start doing ourselves.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay.
Number
28.
28. Write down your dreams. Yeah. I think journaling is really good. I am terrible at it. I've tried several times. A couple of my sons do it pretty well. Chad journals, does a lot of doodling with his journals because he's like that with his artist brain. Luke has said that when he journals, he's generally, if he's writing down stuff and journaling, that it's when he is at his best. So I think it's a great piece of advice to write down your dreams, document your feelings, and all those kind of different things.
So journaling in general it's therapeutic, right? It's almost like a counseling session because you're getting things out instead of holding them in.
Yeah.
But as far as dreams go, it's encouraging and it helps you not to forget them, right? They kind of become goals when you commit them to paper. Whereas I might dream something and not write it down and I forget it. I'm like, man, what was that?
Yeah.
Again. So this is a solid point as well.
Yeah.
All right, 29. Take time to snuggle. Take time to snuggle your pets. This is the one I think the veterinary doctor actually wrote in here. Take time to snuggle your pets. They love you so much and are always happy to see you. I want to laugh at this, and I wanted to kind of exclude it at first, but
I don't have any pets, so you'd have to tell me if that's a true statement.
Well, they do love you, of course. The dog is man's best friend. Like that quote is there for a reason. Definitely love you. And I guess we can say two things. Biblically speaking, God says that in part, the character of a man is seen by how he treats his animals.
Really?
Yeah.
That's biblical?
Yeah. And,
what verse?
I think it's in Proverbs. We can find it later. Okay. But it makes sense. I mean, God has created these. He's entrusted everything on earth to man. That's just Genesis 1 and 2. We're to care for those things. And so there's that. But then it's also, studies have shown for sure that those who have pets typically live longer. There's something therapeutic about having that pet there. It's kind of like grounding, walking around barefoot all the time, or something kind of healing about it. And you've got this animal, you're petting it, you're snuggling with it. There's consistent, unconditional love there. So there's a lot of value to having pets, but there's also a lot of negatives, like cleaning up your yard. So anyway,
you're talking about dogs. Anyway,
take this one for what it's worth.
Pets.
Yes, that's right. It's kind of weird to think about like snuggling with a hamster or some kind of lizard.
A snake.
Yeah. All right. Number 30. Moving on.
Number 30. Take time. No, we already did that one. That's 29.
Don't repeat that one.
Be confident and humble at the same time. I like this one.
Yeah.
So that's a tight balance. And confident doesn't mean cocky or egotistical. Just means sure of yourself. And humble means, to me, understanding that everything that you have comes from a source, and that source is our Creator. And that if you have that balance, like you're doing stuff and He's created you to do stuff and you're doing it to the best of your ability, you should be confident that you can do it well. But not overconfident, knowing that it could be taken away from you at any time. And two, that it was given to you. Those abilities, those skills, those desires, all those things were given to you. It's not
it doesn't come from you. Yeah.
It's not from you. So
no, that's fantastic. I don't think anything needs to be said more about that. 31, we're getting close. If ever in doubt, remember whose son you are and refuse, all caps, to be ordinary. If ever in doubt, remember whose son you are and refuse to be ordinary. Now, I don't know anything about this veterinary doctor guy. He's probably talking about physical sonship.
Yeah.
But I think from a Christian perspective, obviously we can and should apply this to us being, by adoption, sons of God.
Right.
That we belong to Him. And so we should refuse to be ordinary. And the whole, like, if ever in doubt part, we can really get down on ourselves oftentimes. But we need to go back to that foundation and say, I don't need to beat myself up. I need to remember that I'm a son. And that my Father's there to forgive me. He's there to help me get back up, right? And help me to keep pushing forward, refusing to be ordinary, living a life totally sold out for Him.
Yeah, I think that's way more valuable because you're talking about a Father who is unchanging and all loving, and it's an unconditional, love. Whereas human father, earthly father, some don't even have one, so this doesn't apply very well for them.
Well, that being said, though, it is true. Like I want this to apply to physical sonship as well. I want I want to live such a life that my children know that if they're ever in doubt about themselves, that they remember that they are my son or my daughter, and that they are loved, and that they are valued. And I'm always there to help them get back up and to remember my challenge to them to not live an ordinary life. So, and the fact is, as studies have shown, people often view God or our Heavenly Father in the same way that they viewed their earthly father, right? Like that's how they at least begin to understand Him. And sometimes that's a terrible thing because, like you said, they don't have a father, or father's been negligent or whatever, but we can strive to be a solid example and help them make that transition. So, all right, verse 32. Go ahead.
Did you say verse?
Verse. I did. Oh boy, the veterinary doctor. He's moving up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Number 32.
Number 32.
In all things, lead by example, not by explanation.
This may be the best.
Yeah,
I think so. In this whole list. Why? I just feel like we just talk so much.
Talk is cheap.
I think if every dad were to dare to be honest, he would say that he explains a lot more than he leads by example, for sure. And there's even times where we say, do what I say, not what I do. That's not a good way to lead. And we kind of use it. Well, I'm just human, and we use that as an excuse to not lead by example.
Right.
But this is calling us up as we should. No, you need to lead by example. You can lead by example. Is it harder? Yes. Are you going to be putting in more effort than other men? Yes. But are you going to leave a more solid legacy for your son? Yes. And is that legacy going to last for generations? Yes. So this is just, I just don't think you get more pure advice than this. Lead by example, not by explanation.
So
Meaning
I'm
only.
gonna
Of course,
challenge
you
you
got to
on this. I'm
explain,
gonna
but
challenge you on this.
don't do it, Dwayne.
Do you remember? I think it was you. Maybe it wasn't.
Oh,
Maybe
boy.
you were a thing. But one of the quotes that you dislike.
On this?
No.
Oh, okay.
In general was something to the effect of share the gospel and when necessary use words.
Yes. Yeah. It preach the gospel at all times, and if necessary, use words.
Yeah.
It's often attributed, but falsely, to St. Francis of Assisi.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm saying lead with that.
Mm-hmm. And not by explanation. Yeah. This is in reference to fatherhood. The gospel, of course, you have to. The problem with it is that initial verb preach. Preaching in the Greek has to do with words. You have to communicate a verbal message in order for somebody to come to Christ. Living according to the gospel is something I should do, but it's not enough to bring somebody to Christ. Without the message, that person cannot understand what they must do. That's the problem with that quote. My life should be immersed in the gospel. It should exude the gospel. Think of like the Sermon on the Mount, this kind of new kingdom standard that Christ set. I should be striving for that. People should be able to see that increasingly in my life. But preaching the gospel message is a different and additional thing that must take place. That's what I don't like about that quote.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
They didn't say preach. You've been more on board.
I don't know what else they would have said, but
share
the gospel. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if I would have been more on board. I just would have said, you've got to live it and you've got to preach it. It's just an insufficient quote altogether. Stop saying it.
Well, would you say that with that thing, that quote too, that it's both? You got to use words sometimes.
Yeah, to be fair, yeah, and I said that. I said, I think implied is in all things lead by example, not by explanation only. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was thinking about this actually earlier this week. My dad led by example in great ways, but I wish he would have taken the time to explain to me why he was living that way.
Oh,
yeah. I think that would have been more powerful. The point of this quote, just like many of the proverbs or whatever, it's not meant to be like an end all be all. Yeah. It's meant to, point out a typical flaw, in this case in men, mm-hmm. that we often talk it, but we don't walk it, mm-hmm. And so it's just, he's not saying don't explain it. I would definitely say explain it, but make sure you're also living it.
Yeah. Got it.
Explanation without setting an example it's just weak. It's not going to be as impactful in your child's life. Yeah. And it can be seen as hypocritical.
It will be seen as hypocritical. Yeah.
So
33 is you.
All right. Dress how you want to be addressed. I mean, obviously, look at us.
Yeah.
I think I said last time I was going to wear a sport coat.
I know.
I failed.
That, and then we had a comment on one of the other podcasts that they want to see you eat crackling bran with the banana strawberry milk. So,
all right, let's do it.
And you got to do it in a sport coat.
I'm game.
All right,
dress how you want to be addressed.
Yeah, I think that as they get older, it's more important.
Really,
when they're younger, they're kids.
Oh, I see.
Knockabout, But once they get older, then I think it's more important. And for the most part, for boys especially, I think that comes kind of naturally once they start getting interested in girls.
Mm-hmm.
At least I noticed in my boys' lives, their hygiene and their dress and all that kind of stuff
mm-hmm.
changed.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Once they started being interested in
mm-hmm.
girls and trying to get some of that attention,
mm-hmm.
or even dating, and some of the girls that they dated were like, "What are you wearing?" Or we got to go shopping. You got to get this. And next thing I know, their wardrobes all changed. Like, okay, so I think it makes.
So I wasn't thinking about this in terms of girls at all. Actually, it makes sense, but I wasn't thinking about it. I was thinking more like in society. It seems to me like this is rooted in kind of further back in history, where it was kind of like, if you want to be respected, dress nicely, like really like dress to the nines kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be a bum. You know, like maybe like in the workplace.
Right.
I don't really know, but I don't know how much it applies today. There's so many subcultures and so many different styles in America right now. It's like, I guess it depends on who you're trying to be impressing, who you're trying to impress here. You know, like if you're trying to impress people in the grunge movement, dress grunge. You know, like if you're trying to be a jock, dress jock. You know, I don't. If you're going for a job interview, maybe this applies.
Yeah. What do you think about I guess, the going to church and just whatever? I mean, when I was growing up, it was, well, the other day, actually, Kyle said, when we go to church together, he would like to not match necessarily, but dress up and kind of look nice.
Mm-hmm.
He referenced another family in the church when they all came in. He's like, they come in, they're all in dresses and jackets and ties, and it just looks really nice. I'd like to do that with our family. And I told him that at one point everybody did that, so they didn't stand out. I mean, that's just the way, it was called your Sunday bests for a reason.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, that was like their only nice clothes, and they just wore it to church on Sundays. But now, shorts, t-shirts, flip-flops, it doesn't matter. But there's also that, because it's that come as you are type attitude. And I don't know how I feel about it, because am I giving my best to the Lord, or does he want me just to come as I am? Or I don't know.
I've wondered about that too. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I've wondered, in Jesus's day, did they have different clothes for synagogue? You know, I mean, they didn't have penny loafers or something like this, you know, like it was, I'm sure they were just wearing their sandals every time, everywhere. I mean, they probably only had one pair, and John the Baptist talks about how if you have 2 tunics, give one to your neighbor, I don't know. I wonder how much that is cultural, like maybe it became somewhat of a ritual, like to communicate to God that you're giving him your best by wearing a really nice, expensive suit or dress or whatever it might be. I just don't really know that that's biblical. At the same time, though, the come as you are, I think there's probably a healthy middle there. Like, I don't think we're talking about it the right way. The come as you are has made a lot of people lax, not really care about not just their outward appearance, but their inward as well. Like there's kind of a fear of God is missing. The reverence is missing. I mean, Moses was wearing his sandals and his tunic, but when he approached the bush, he realized he was on holy ground. There was a fear and there was a reverence there. We don't come to church that way anymore. But I don't think dressing nicer is going to solve that problem either.
Yeah. Maybe not, but it is similar to what they're talking about. Dress how you want to be addressed. There is an inward, your outward appearance speaks to your inward heart.
Yeah. And I think cleanliness, again, not being a bum, not coming with your hair all crazy, wherever you go, whether it's church or whatever, like for whatever reason, if I walk into Walmart and someone's wearing their pajamas, and their hair's all up in rollers or, whatever, I'm like, holy smokes, man, you should have done something before you came. So I think in general we should take care of ourselves and dress clean as much as possible and put together. I just think I think you're right. There's something, the way that you take care of yourself physically, you can go in excess for sure, but the way that you take care of yourself physically shows a degree of self-respect and respect for other people. All right. So last one.
Whew. Number 34. be blessed by being a blessing,
Mm.
which is my personal favorite because it's one that I really encouraged my boys, and just knowing that, I mean, before they left the house, I would try and tell them, may the Lord bless you and may you be a blessing to others. Sometimes they got sick of it. Sometimes they didn't know why I was doing it, but that was something that part of the blessing that I would put on them. And I think in general, that is how we kind of bring heaven to earth, how we kind of fulfill the Matthew verse,
your kingdom come, your will be done.
Come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I just think that it is something that instills the character and the morality, the ideals that we want our kids to be in the world.
Yeah. In Hebrew, the word blessed means happy, or it's very close to the word happy. So in Psalm 1, when it says, blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, etc., but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night, ... and everything he does, he'll prosper. This word blessed, again, it has to do with happy. Happy is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, but who meditates upon the law of the Lord and lives according to it, right? So there's something very true about we are truly happy and fulfilled when we're being a blessing to other people. And ultimately that comes back to the image in which we were made, right? Because God himself, being triune, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, have eternally lived in this self-giving community. And in being made in his image, we were also created to live in community and to for that community to be characterized by self-giving. Right. So when we are self-giving, when we're putting others first, we're others-centric and Christ-centric, we actually experience a greater joy, which is the opposite of what our culture kind of pushes on us. Like we're taught to think, if I gain more and more and more, and I keep it to myself, and I spend more and more on myself, time, money, resources, whatever, I'm going to be happier. But in the end, it really just makes people feel more empty. And ironically, we're told, well, you must have enough, and so you've got to gain more. But in reality, Christ is saying it's more blessed to give than to receive, right? Don't focus on yourself. Selfishness is contrary to the way that you were created and will not lead to joy. It would be like a fish being out of its element, the water. He's not going to experience pleasure there. Ultimately, he's going to die, right? He's most fulfilled when he's in the water, and we're most fulfilled when we're living according to our created purpose as well. And that is living a life of self-sacrifice and self-giving to other people. This is just a really solid point.
Do you think that the Hebrew word, as in happy, is an emotional thing, or is it more like joy, where it's regardless of
deeper
situation, deeper?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I've not looked into it, but yeah. I mean, not much Hebrew is, my understanding, not a language of many words, but carefully chosen ones, and I'm sure, to be consistent too with the rest of Scripture, there's nothing superfluous or shallow, being talked about here. It is talking about something deeper, something truly more fulfilling and eternal.
I think that the a lot of the different points that we made, or that were made on this list, go hand in hand with being blessed and being a blessing. We're trying to instill character, so that the character that we instill in our boys can be, spread out to the world, to their friends, to the people that they are
absolutely
in contact with, to their future spouse and kids. And we want to bless them so that they can be a blessing to others. So it's not just being blessed by God, but we as fathers and dads are blessing our children so that they can be a blessing to their children, to their friends and family, to their in their culture and in their communities.
Yeah.
Just like our.
Yeah. That's a great tie-in comment, I think, just to the purpose of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're trying to be a blessing to other dads so that they can be a blessing to their children,
Mm-hmm.
right? And collectively as dads, we're trying to be blessings to our children so that they can continue to be a blessing to successive generations,
Right.
both within our bloodline and outside of it.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a perfect. Thank you, veterinary doctor.
Thank you for getting this list from Douglas MacArthur.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. No.
So next week, we're going to go through chapter 8 of Stepping Up, and it's kind of a similar theme, right? It's talking about, it's kind of getting at leaving solid pieces of advice for your children.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, so we'll, jump off of this one here and start the next one, because we might be wearing the same clothes.
We will be.
We will be.
We could switch shirts, you and I.
You can't switch shirts.
No.
You'll swim in mine, and yours will be like a jog bra on mine.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and end this episode, and we'll just go on to the next.
All right.
Does that sound good?
Yep.
Always remember that real dads lead